8,404 errors in 24 hours. Revenue dropped 15%. A single catch-all route silently shadowed your product pages. Let's break down dynamic routes, route groups, and advanced routing patterns, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Dynamic routes in Next.js use bracket notation in folder names. ID matches a single segment, slug matches one or more, and slug also matches the route. Route groups like marketing let you organize layouts without adding to the URL. The key is understanding how the router resolves conflicts, which is deterministic, not by specificity. Next.js resolves routes in a fixed priority, static first, then all dynamic patterns sorted alphabetically. That means category and slug compete at the same level. The winner is whichever folder name sorts first in your file system, not the more specific pattern. This is why adding a catch-all can silently shadow existing routes. Here's the priority table. Note that category and slug are in the same tier. The order between them is alphabetical by folder name, which varies by OS. Never rely on sort order, always add a literal prefix like CMS, slug to separate concerns. Route groups like marketing are transparent to the URL but not to the router. If you have marketing/product/slug and app/product/catch-all, those are URL level siblings. The router sees them as competing routes and picks one alphabetically. Use route groups only for layout hierarchy, not for URL organization. This code shows the difference between slug and slug. With slug, products returns undefined for slug, you must handle that case. With slug, slug is an empty array. Always guard with a length check to avoid crashes on the route path. Parallel routes use @slot folders to render independent route trees. Each slot needs a default.js to render when no matching page exists. Intercepting routes with pattern only trigger on client-side navigation, direct URL access uses the regular route. Always test both navigation modes. Here's a parallel route example. The @modal slot has a default.js that returns null when no modal is active. The intercepted product modal only shows on client navigation from the parent route. Direct navigation to /products/d skips the intercept and renders the full page. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The team added app/product/slug for a CMS feature without checking that app/products/category/product already existed. Because both are dynamic segments at the same level, the router picks alphabetically, and slug sorts before category on most systems. So all three segment URLs like /products/electronics/laptops/MacBook Pro matched the catch-all, which didn't have a handler for that pattern, returning 404. A catch-all slug @/products/slug matched before the more specific products category product due to alphabetical priority, causing 40% of product pages to 404. The fix added a literal prefix CMS to disambiguate. The fix was to move the catch all under a literal prefix, product/CMS/slug. This separates CMS content from product catalog routes. The literal segment, CMS, ensures the catch-all only matches paths starting with /products/CMS/, leaving /products/category/product untouched. They also added a CI script to detect overlapping dynamic patterns in the future. This is the exact mistake from the hook, adding a catch-all at the same directory level as existing dynamic routes. The catch-all shadowed the more specific category/product route because of alphabetical priority. Always use a literal prefix like /CMS/ to prevent this. If you use slug and access slug without checking length, the route page will crash because slug is an empty array. Always guard with if slug length == 0 before accessing elements. Every parallel route slot needs a default.js at every level. Without it, the slot renders nothing when no page matches, which can break the layout. Always provide default.js even if it just returns null. Add this script to your CI pipeline to automatically detect overlapping dynamic route patterns before deployment. It checks for multiple dynamic segments at the same directory level and warns about potential shadowing. A catch-all route that returns a page not found component with HTTP 200 instead of calling not found can cause SEO damage. Google indexes these as thin duplicate pages, potentially deranking the entire domain. Always call not found for unmatched slugs to return a true 404 status. Route groups can create subtle conflicts when they produce the same URL pattern as sibling dynamic routes. This example shows how marketing /products/slug and products/ catch-all are URL-level siblings despite different file paths, leading to unpredictable matching. To debug route conflicts, use next.build-debug to see which page TSX matches each URL. List all dynamic folders and check for multiple patterns at the same depth. Add this CI script to automatically detect overlapping dynamic segments before they reach production. Let's run through some common interview questions. What is route resolution priority in Next.js app router? Static, dynamic, alphabetical, catch-all, optional catch-all. Specificity is not evaluated. Explain route groups and when to avoid them. Groups organize layouts without URL segments. Avoid when they create same-level URL conflicts with dynamic routes. Why do /products/category/product pages 404 on direct navigation but work from links? Likely a catch-all route shadows them. Direct navigation uses server-side resolution, which picks alphabetically. Client links may preload the correct route. And a few frequently asked questions. What is the route resolution priority? Static first, then all dynamic patterns alphabetically, then catch-all, then optional catch-all. What is the difference between slug and slug? Slug does not match route path. Slug does passing an empty array. Do route groups affect URL paths? No, they are stripped from the URL but affect internal route resolution. Let's recap the key takeaways. Static, dynamic, alphabetical, catch-all, optional catch-all. Never place slug and param at same directory level. Use literal prefix segments to disambiguate catch-all routes. Route groups do not affect URL paths but affect resolution. Ready to go deeper? Up next, parallel routes and intercepting routes in Next.js 16, then middleware in Next.js 16. Complete guide with auth patterns, then route handlers, building API endpoints in Next.js 16 and authentication in Next.js 16. Auth.js, middleware, and route protection. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.